Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was born a low-class devil before the Great Devil War. Realizing how the devil class system subjugated devils of lower class, Naruto will represent his origins as he rises and expose the corrupted system that he lives in, and he'll do it without the high-class devils even realizing it. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 15, The Confrontation Part 2. Naruto's Peerage House. Hey, you know what type of show they should make? Sigh, what type of show, Kisame? Just imagine it. A whole show, just about sharks. That sounds like a money maker to me. I can probably get some of my shark buddies to help out. You have shark buddies? Yash, that's amazing. Well, duh. I am a shark demon. I've got a few guys out there, like Brendan. I haven't seen him in a while. Hope he's still alive though. Kisame, Hao, Lee and Anna were all sitting in the living room, watching whatever documentary Hao had on. Yo was still upstairs using the bathroom, but they hardly noticed that he had been gone for a while. Kisame was slouched in his recliner. Anna replaced the comfort of Yo's body by leaning on one of the couch pillows, and Lee and Hao shared the other couch that was facing the television. Thud crash. What the hell? Said Kisame, looking up to the ceiling, as did everyone else, wondering what the sound was. Is he shitting out a brick or something? Maybe he had too much of my protein shakes? Suggested Lee. Their first sight of Yo was him tumbling down the stairs. He missed a step and rolled all the down to the bottom, finishing off with a pain-filled groan that hurt. He muttered. I guess it's Let's Be Idiots Day in Yo's world. Said Kisame with a laugh. What's wrong with you? He's not in there. Ha. Can't hear you. Said Kisame. He's not in there. Can you speak up, Yo? Asked Hao, wondering why his brother was acting weird. I said he's not in there. The younger Asakura shouted while jumping off the floor. Naruto-sama is gone. He's fucking lying. Said Kisame, turning back to the television. He's not in there. The window is open and his wheelchair is gone. Shouted Yo again. Hao, Lee, and Anna jumped up and ran up the stairs to check. Kisame laughed while he stole the remote. He's lying. I don't believe it. We would have sensed him if he left. He really is gone. Kisame heard Lee's voice from upstairs. TCH, he's probably in the bathroom. Mumbled the shark demon. He's not in the bathroom either. Shouted Hao. Kisame started to sweat a little. Maybe he's just in that closet. He likes sleeping in there from time to time. YOSH. Not in the closet as well. Now Kisame hopped out of his recliner, grabbed Samahata, and ran up the stairs to join his peerage members. The fuck you mean he's gone? Does it look like he's in here, dumbass? Said Anna with a snarl. He left without telling us. Well, where did he go since you've got all the damn answers in the world? Shouted Kisame. He even took his fucking wheelchair. And where's his pickle jar that was sitting on his dresser? Damn it. We don't know where he is. Muttered Hao. We need to go out and find him now. Split up and search around Koho. If you see him, contact everyone else before talking to him. We need to bring him back here. YOSH. Let's go find Naruto-sama. Shouted Lee as he jumped out of the window in search of his king. Hopefully this works. Mumbled Anna as she disappeared. Everyone followed her lead and disappeared in magic circles to find Naruto. A few miles outside of Koho Academy. A smiling Naruto's eyes perked up when he saw Koho Academy in the distance. Finally. Why does this school so far away? He said with a grumble as he continued to push himself down the sidewalk, giving the occasional wave to any passers-by. Lee, who was jumping from building to building, stopped when he sensed Naruto. It didn't take him long to find his king closing in on Ko Academy. Lee quickly made a communication seal to his peerage members. I found Naruto-sama. He's east of Ko Academy and very close. I'll try to slow him down now with my youth, he said as he teleported to a nearby alleyway. Naruto tuned his head when he sensed one of a magical presence nearby. Who is that, Lee? He said once he saw Lee walk out of the alleyway. It is I, Naruto-sama. What are you doing out here by yourself? You're supposed to be sleeping, asked Lee. I got bored and I wanted to see Orochimaru. He's been working so hard and I decided to share some of my pickles with him. I haven't had any yet, but I feel like Orochimaru is an expert when it comes to the taste of foods, explained the blonde Bael. That is true, Naruto-sama, but you need to rest. Orochimaru will return home soon and you can eat all the pickles you want, offered Lee. No. I want to eat them with Orochimaru, and where is my protege? Lee tensed at his words because he knew that Kuroka was at Ko Academy with her sister. I didn't see her this morning. She said she had to handle some business, said Hao, walking out of the nearby store that the duo was passing by. He teleported in the bathroom and inside a nearby store, so that he wouldn't raise any suspicions by popping out of nowhere. She'll be home soon, Naruto-sama, but it's time to go back to the house. Why are you two stressing to go back to the house? Asked Naruto. What's so great about it? I've been stuck inside of there for a couple of days. I want some freedom, damn it. Freedom will come later. You need more rest, said Hao, grabbing the handlebars to Naruto's wheelchair and turned him around. Let's go. Phew, said Yo, who was running up to the group. How did you travel that far with a wheelchair, Naruto-sama? The rest I've had has helped me regain some of my strength, answered Naruto. However, I don't want to go home. I want to go to Ko Academy. Again, I'll say, you're going home, demanded Hao as he started to push Naruto's wheelchair. Anna and Kisame caught up with the group, but they noticed that Naruto's wasn't as lively as he usually is. He had a frown on his face as he clutched his pickle jar to his stomach. Everything all right here? Asked Anna. He's fine. We're going back to the house, answered Hao. Naruto didn't say anything at all, basically ignoring everyone else in favor of focusing on the road ahead. All right, muttered Anna, but she started to feel a little uneasy, because she felt Naruto's emotions raging inside of him. Are you all right, Naruto-sama? How? The fire bishop halted his movements as a shiver of fear ran through his body. When Naruto said his name, he instantly had a flashback to the time of their fight. However, Hao held strong and looked down at his master. Yes? Lean forward for me, would you? Asked Naruto creepily. Hao looked at his peerage members with confusion. They all looked back at him with similar looks, not knowing what their king wanted. Nevertheless, Hao leaned forward, complying with his master's order. Naruto didn't even turn around. All he did was reach back to Hao and placed his index and middle finger on Hao's temple. Hao? While his voice didn't change in tone, the atmosphere around them grew tense and heavy. Hao's breath hitched as he felt Naruto's magic enter his body and magic seal phasing to life over his head. You're going to turn around and take me to Ko Academy. When Naruto finished speaking, the pressure around them disappeared in an instant. The magic seal over Hao's head was also gone. Naruto's peerage members, however, were still frozen in place, not daring to move. The Bael sighed and sat back into his wheelchair with a smile, not caring about everyone freezing around him. All right, let's go, he said excitedly. Hao pulled his arms back robotically and turned Naruto around, headed back towards Ko Academy. The motion brought everyone else out of their funk and caught up with the two. Hey. I thought we were taking him home, shouted Kisame. We're taking him to Ko Academy, said Hao, not even turning to Kisame to address him. That's what Naruto-sama wants. Yup. said Naruto happily, we're going to see Orochimaru. A wave of despair filled the group, knowing what may happen if Naruto went to Kuo Academy. Master, please, we should just go home. Orochimaru will meet us there and Kuroka will come too. Just trust us on this. But what about Issei? I want to see him as well, said Naruto with a raised eyebrow. We can invite him over too, answered Anna. We can have a protein party. I'll make the shakes, yelled Lee. Nope, said Naruto with a closed-eye smile. Let's keep it going, How? Yes, sir. How said with the same creepy, robotic voice as he continued to push Naruto to the school. Welp, said Kisame with a clap, I guess that's that. What do you mean that's that? Anna said in a hushed tone, he can't go to that school. You know who's there. Listen, we can't run from this, answered Kisame with an unusually serious tone in his voice. They're bound to meet each other sometime in the future. Might as well get this over with now. Plus, there isn't any convincing him to change his mind. This happening now. I guess so, muttered Yo, looking at Hao's back with worry. I guess Naruto-sama did some weird magic stuff to mess with Hao's mind, huh? Seems like it, and it was a very advanced spell too, said Anna, following the older Asakura. It's like he has complete control over Hao. That guy gives me the creeps, mumbled Kisame, staring at Naruto who was humming a tune. If he gets healed, I don't know what could stop him. I wonder how he compares to the other Satans. Kuo Academy. Orochimaru sighed as he sat down. He was currently in the teacher's lounge taking his break from all the chaos happening outside. While he didn't have a problem with parents watching their children do well in school, it was the constant camera flashes and disturbances that were getting to him. But even with all that, there was one massive distraction that was really annoying him. A cardboard box shuffled its way towards Orochimaru. The top opened up and Gasper popped his head out of it. Hey, is it time now? No, it is not time, nor will it ever be time, said Orochimaru with a growl. There isn't any snaky time, or whatever the hell you say it is. Just go back to wherever you came from and leave me alone. Gasper, with a hurt look in his eyes, slowly entered his box and closed the lid. Orochimaru took a deep breath, glad that he had the little vampire quiet finally. He would enter every class he had in stop time with his weird sacred gear and ask for one of his snakes. It got old really quick for the snake master. However, Orochimaru's silence was interrupted by the sound of crying. He groaned when he figured out that Gasper was quietly crying inside his box. You're crying now. Why are you crying? I'm not crying, said Gasper through his hicks. For what seemed like the 100th time today, Orochimaru groaned. Listen, if you just leave me alone for a few hours and let me conduct my work, I'll let you have one of my snakes for a while, all right. Gasper hopped out of his box with a beaming smile on his face, tears long gone. Really? You really mean it? Yes, now leave before I change my mind, said Orochimaru. With a few energetic nods, Gasper disappeared with a magic seal. Orochimaru actually thanked whatever god saved him from the young vampire. I swear if I was a Christian, I would be thanking that fake god up and down right now, he muttered. After spending a few minutes of silence by himself, Orochimaru sensed the energies of Akino and Rias, along with another magical energy he wasn't familiar with. Finding them more interesting than his current predicament, Orochimaru gathered his briefcase and headed out of the teacher's lounge and to the girls' location. He found the two walking down the hallway with another redhead that seemed very depressed. Orochimaru noticed that he looked a lot like Rias, so he assumed that he was Rias' father. Akino, princess, what do I owe the honor? Asked Orochimaru with usual grin. Good to see you too, Orochimaru, said with a smile, and I'm sure you're enjoying today's chaos as well? Orochimaru probably wants to leave now, said Akino with a giggle. He isn't really a people person. Actually, I don't mind being around people. it's just what they do in my presence is what makes me mad, like taking pictures every 2 seconds. Said Orochimaru with a frown, but I'm almost done with for the day, so that's good. His focus went to the two girls to the older man behind Rias, and who is this man behind you? Orochimaru, this is my father and head of the Gremory clan, Zeoticus Gremory. Gremory. She introduced her father, but with a lot less energy than what she used with Orochimaru. Ah. Said Orochimaru, adding 2 and 2 together, and I assume that he knows? I do. Muttered Zeoticus reluctantly. Rias said that a man named Orochimaru was one of Naruto's peerage members. I guess that's you. It is. Said Orochimaru with a small glare at the head of the Gremory clan, and I guess that you were the one that supported the idea of my master being sealed inside a box for centuries, right? Please forgive me of that decision. Said Zeoticus with a bow. I understand that decision affected your king's mental state negatively. I take full responsibility. You have some responsibility, but not all. Said Orochimaru with a sneer, there are others that I will get answers from. Your punishment, however, will be my master's decision. Whenever you two meet, he'll decide what to do with you. Era, let's calm things down over here. Said the newly arrived Surzex, followed by Graphia, this is a school filled with humans. We don't want any unnecessary fighting to go down now, do we? I honestly wouldn't mind that. Said Orochimaru, his golden orb still focused on Zeoticus. Just seeing one of the people who is responsible for my master's sealing is really getting to me. A snake slid its way out of Orochimaru's sleeve and hissed at Zeoticus. Orochimaru-sama. Warned Graphia. Orochimaru rolled his eyes and recalled his snake, but he kept his eyes on the older Gremory. I want him out of here as soon as possible. His presence sickens me. So do I. Said Rias with a similar roll of her eyes. Zeoticus flinched at his daughter's words, but didn't respond to them. Anyway, how is everybody? I saw Kuroka and Kaneko together eating lunch earlier. That's a good sign for them. It is, started Orochimaru, but the little Nikomata is still hesitant. I'd say it would take some time for their bond to heal. As for the rest, they're currently at home, watching Naruto-sama. If he were to make his way here to school, his eyes turned back to Zeoticus, he'd probably kill your father. And that's why we want peace. Interrupted Surzex, wanting to cease the growing tense atmosphere. While what my father did was wrong, this isn't really the place to be doing such things, right? Said the Satan with an awkward smile. Orochimaru grunted and went back to talk to Rias. Princess, your little devil in a box has been following me around all day, and it's getting quite annoying. One would think that you would have better control of your peerage members. Sorry about that, said Rias with a light facepalm. I'll be sure to address this with him later on. I'm sure Gasper just wanted to play, fufufu. Laughed Akino. He can play on his own time and not mine. Said Orochimaru, shaking his head, but never mind that. I guess that you all have another class to attend? You must be losing it, Orochimaru. Our next class is with you. Said Rias, are you sure you're okay? I'm alright, princess. Orochimaru said with a grunt, I'm just tired. Hopefully nothing crazy happens for the rest of the day. The group entered a comfortable silence as they made their way to Orochimaru's classroom. Graphia, Zeoticus and Surzex sat at the back of the class with the other parents while Rias and Akino sat at their usual seats. Sona and Tsubaki were already seated and they both at their friends. They didn't want to bow to Surzex because they weren't in the right environment to show their respect for the man, but they did slight nod their heads in his direction. Orochimaru sat down in his chair and opened his briefcase to retrieve some papers he was going to use during class. However, before he could start class, his phone started ringing. He was curious as to why he would get a phone call during this time of day, but he reached for it and read that it was Yo that was calling him. Orochimaru turned away from his class and answered the phone. What is it? Damn, I don't get a hello or nothing. Said Kisame, see, that's why I don't like your pale ass. You're so upright and… Kisame, why do you have Yo's phone? I don't have time to listen to your meaningless squabble right now. Kisame clicked his tongue, but didn't retort back to Orochimaru. Listen, I just want to let you know that we tried. What does that even mean? Asked the chemistry teacher. Just know. Kisame stressed, just know that we tried. Now how do I cut this thing off? Press the red button right there in the middle. Orochimaru recognized the voice to be Yo's. You need to learn how to use a phone. I can use a phone just fine, thank you very much. Shouted Kisame. I know how to use a PH click. Orochimaru's heart skipped a beat when he heard what he assumed to be Naruto's voice. However, the snake man shook his head with a chuckle. It's nothing, Orochimaru. You're just hearing things. He took a few quick breaths before focusing on the task at hand. Good evening, everyone, said Orochimaru, gaining everyone's attention. As you know, it is observation day, so I want all of my students to be prepared to answer questions about the latest lesson we've gone over and no doodling. I'm talking to you, Ranmaru. Not in front of my parents, sensei, muttered a blue-haired boy with a face plant. Orochimaru's joke gained a small crowd of laughter from everyone. When everything settled down, Orochimaru's small smirk vanished for a more neutral look. All right, open your textbooks to Chapter 12, Lesson 3. Today will be more of review, so I hope you all studied. A quick question, if you don't mind, said one of the parents in the back. Not at all. Please, ask away, Orochimaru said respectfully. How often do you have tests in this class? My boy, Jeremy, hasn't had as much homework in this class compared to his other classes. I was just wondering how you structure your class. That is a good question, and I can see where Jeremy gets his intelligence, Mr. Belpois. I usually have a test every other week or so. We mainly do our work during class, because I understand that teens have their outside lives that distract them from their school work. In class, we've had discussions, group projects, and many more study groups that prepare your children for test. I'm proud to say that this class is my most successful grade-wise. By the time tests come around, my students already have everything they need to know memorized. He answered. All right, thank for that, said Mr. Belpois with a nod. That was very informative. No problem at all. You parents have done an excellent job in raising these young adults. They've come to class prepared every day, except for Ranmaru. Again, everyone laughed again at Orochimaru's joke, even Ranmaru's parents. Said boy was hiding his face in shame from all of the stares. Orochimaru chuckled. Now then, shall we continue? However, another interruption came in the form of someone knocking on the classroom door. Orochimaru moved from the board and to the door to open it, probably some parents that got lost, I assume. He said to the class while opening the door. When he opened the door, Orochimaru was cursed with the sight of a smiling Naruto, in his wheelchair, while holding his blessed Pickles, surrounded by his peerage members. Hi, said Naruto with a wave. I brought Pickles. The dumbstruck Orochimaru's jaw dropped at the scene. His body was shaking as sceneries of an outraged Naruto destroying the school if he met the wrong people. And one of those people may be in my room, thought Orochimaru as an image of Zeoticus popped up in his head. Everything all right there, Orochimaru? Said Yo with an uneasy laugh. What are you all doing here? Said Orochimaru with forced whisper, not wanting his class to know what was going on. We're here to see you and eat pickles, said Naruto, rising up his jar. I wanted to catch you on your lunch break, but I guess I missed it, huh? Orochimaru looked on at his master in shock for a few moments before turning back to his class. Excuse me. Something's popped up and I have to handle it. Just sit here. I'll be quick, he said with a forced grin as he closed the door behind him. What's wrong? Do you not want your class to meet me? Asked Naruto with a pout. I didn't do anything to them. Naruto-sama, you're supposed to be at the house in bed. And these incompetent peerage members of yours were supposed to be watching you," said Orochimaru with anger to the rest of his colleagues. "It wasn't our fault. Yo went up to his room to check up on him, and he was gone." Boom. Just like that. Kisame clapped back. "We tried to bring him back, but he brainfucked How and now we're here." "Oh yeah, I forgot about that," said Naruto. He reached back to How and touched him on his temple. Suddenly, How gasped for breath as he fell on the ground. "What the hell was that?" "Hey, bud. Sorry about that," said Naruto to his bishop. "You were being mean, so I had to get a little serious. But everything's worked out now." Where are we?" "All I can remember was us on the sidewalk," muttered How as slowly regained his breath. "You're at Kuo Academy now," said Orochimaru with a sigh. "Clearly, you all couldn't follow basic instructions on keeping him at the house. You all probably left him in his room thinking that he wouldn't wake up at any time," he accused. "I mean, so. I was watching TV. It's true. I had to take a shit." "What are we talking about?" asked the clearly confused Naruto. Orochimaru face-palmed. "Never mind. I guess you're not going to go back to the house? I've been in that bed for a few days. I want to stress my muscle. I don't see why that's so hard to understand. And where is my protege? Do you know where she went?" asked Naruto. "She's currently here at school with her sister. It's class observation day and she wanted to spend some time with her," Orochimaru explained. "Wait, didn't How tell me that my protege had some business to take care of? Why didn't you just tell me that?" asked Naruto with a confused look. "I just wanted to get you home." How quickly lied. "It's dangerous out here for you while you haven't recovered yet." "Well, that's too bad, 'cause I'm staying." "There, King said with a huff, "I want to observe classes too. If she can do it, so can I." "You mean you want to observe my class?" Orochimaru could just feel like the rest of his day was going to be filled with stress. Moments later, Orochimaru entered his classroom, gaining everyone's attention. "Sorry about that, but it seems like we have a surprise guest." "A surprise guest?" Rias muttered under her breath with curiosity. However, her eyes widened with shock and fear when How wheeled Naruto into the class, with his peerage members following closely behind. "Wow, Orochimaru. I didn't know you taught so many students," said Naruto happily while slightly gripping his pickle jar. Meanwhile, in the back of the classroom, the trio of devils couldn't hide their surprise at seeing Naruto. Holy shit! Surzex couldn't hold back his curse when he laid eyes on the smiling Naruto. "This is not good." Zeoticus tensed up when he saw Naruto. "He hasn't changed. I can't believe that he's actually out." The elder Gremory narrowed his eyes at the blonde Bael. "However, he does act the same. He seems more childlike than how he used to be." "They've summed that up to his time in the seal," explained Surzex with a small glare at his father. "Solitude would do that even to the strongest beings." "I understand that," said Zeoticus, "but it just seems odd to me. He used to be so laid back and neutral. His actions remind me a lot of how Leviathan-sama acts now." "Call it a coping mechanism if you will," answered Surzex. "Those two have been through a lot. It must be their way to suppress their emotions." "Sensei, who is this?" asked one of the students. "This is my adopted older brother," Orochimaru said with a stress-filled sigh. "I didn't tell him that there was a class observation day going on, so when he found out, he quickly made his way down here." "Sensei has an older brother." Similar questions from Orochimaru's students filled the room with curiosity of the new information they had on their usually quiet teacher. Yup. My name is Naruto Bael. So nice to meet you all. These are my bodyguards here, because I'm handicapped from an accident, so treat me well or they beat you into a pulp." He finished with a happy laugh. "Please don't say anything like that." Orochimaru groaned. just go sit in the back and don't do anything weird please. This is supposed to be a formal setting. No problem, Orochimaru. I'll be good. Said Naruto with a nice smile that actually creeped Orochimaru out. Yo, can you wheel me to the back? Yes sir. The younger Asakura said, grabbing the handlebars to Naruto's wheelchair and wheeled him down the aisle to the back. His peerage followed suit, keeping quiet and selling their act of being bodyguards. Naruto waved at the Rias, Sona, Akino, and Tsubaki while he pasted by them. They all have him a wave back. However, Rias and Akino's heart rate was steadily increasing as Naruto made his way to the back of the room with one of the main people involved with his sealing. Surzex and Graphia, it's been a while. Said Naruto in a conversational tone once he made it to the back of the room. You look nice. Thank you very much, Naruto. You look quite nice yourself. Said Surzex with a kind smile as he shook the Satan's hand. I hope your recovery is going smooth. It is, but I wish it could speed up. Said Naruto while shaking Graphia's hand. However, I think I've found a way, a technique that shall remain hidden for now, to heal me faster. Always so secretive. Said Surzex with a smirk. You know, if you would have contacted me sooner, I would have done everything in my power to free you. I know, but once I realized what that box meant and the things I could do, it only made sense to me to stay inside for a few centuries. Of course, it came with a few consequences like my body being weak, but it's nothing that some good old sleeping can fix. The Bael answered. Well, I'm happy for you. Said Surzex. However, the nervousness he had kept growing as he introduced the next topic. Naruto, I'm not sure if you know him or not, but this is my father, Zeoticus Gremory. Ah. Zeoticus. I've wanted to meet you for a while. Said Naruto with a nice smile and an outstretched hand. Why yes, it's nice to meet you as well. Zeoticus said with a little hesitation. He was a part of the reason why Naruto was in a seal, so why was he acting so calmly around him? Nevertheless, the two shook hands without any problems, surprising everyone while doing so. Yo, can you park me next to Zeoticus? He asked his knight. Yes sir. He said again, but was a little unsure of what may happen with the two being so close to each other. He parked Naruto right beside Zeoticus like he was ordered to and made sure that he was comfortable. Is this fine? Yes, it is. Thank you for that. He replied, you guys can stand over there in the corner. There are still some chairs for you guys to sit at. Are you sure? We can stay here with you if you want. Asked How with consideration. I'm fine. You all go over there and get comfortable. Said Naruto. They all looked at each other, unsure of if they should listen to him or not, but soon enough they all moved over to the corner, leaving the four devils by themselves. Orochimaru's really good at teaching. Said Naruto, noticing how all of the students were focused on what he was saying and answering any questions he had for them. Indeed. It's almost weird to see this side of your pawn. Said Surzex, still checking out of the side of his eye both Naruto and Zeoticus. He's usually very strict and straightforward, but now he seems calmer and more neutral. Orochimaru has always been a good speaker, but to demand the attention of teenagers about boring old science is really impressive to me. I'm glad I added him to my peerage so long ago. Said Naruto with a small smile. The group of devils retired the conversation in favor of listening to Orochimaru teach. Orochimaru, while he was putting up a good front of being engaged with his students, he was more focused on what was going on in the back as well as the rest of Naruto's other peerage members. Naruto was smiling, not caring about anything around him, and Zeoticus was side-eyeing the blonde Bael. He was extremely uncomfortable with Naruto not even recognizing his existence as important, because he knew Naruto was fully aware of what he did to him, so why was he acting upon it? He was expecting Naruto to go ballistic the moment he came to the back of the classroom, but instead, he was watching Naruto listen to Orochimaru's lesson like he was a student himself. Sona and Tsubaki noticed how many times Rias and Akino would look to the back of the class, and they followed their sights to Naruto and Rias' father. While they were getting some uncomfortable vibes from everyone other than Naruto, she couldn't put together what was so bad about the two sitting next to each other. What is going on with them? Sona whispered to her, Queen, but she only got a shrug as an answer. She sighed, I hate being in the dark about things. Orochimaru continued to give his lesson without any disturbance, and everything seemed calmed. Halfway into class, Naruto spoke, I'm hungry. Were you going to eat those pickles that you brought with you? Asked Surzex with a raised eyebrow. I was, but I think I want to save these for a special occasion. Is there some food somewhere in the school? Asked Naruto. If I remember correctly, there were snacks for the parents at the entrance of Kuo Academy. Spoke Graphia, I'm sure that they'll still have some snacks available for you now. Really? I want some. He said back. Hal walked over to his master, hearing his conversation with them. Do you want me to take you to the entrance, Naruto-sama? He asked. No, I want Zeoticus to take me. Instantly, a sense of dread ran through everyone's hearts, even Graphia's, who usually doesn't show her emotions to anyone. Zeoticus himself was slightly panicking on the inside, but he held up the front of confusion on his face. You want me to take you? Why not one of your peerage members? Because I want you to take me. Naruto said simply, you wouldn't have a problem with that, right? While he didn't say it out loud, everyone understood what he was implying. Zeoticus shivered, feeling like Naruto was analyzing his every move with his cold blue eyes. I haven't felt fear like this in a long time, thought the Gremory clan leader as he slowly stood from his seat. I'll take you. Naruto-sama, are you sure? I'm perfectly capable of taking you myself. Hal said with a little sweat dropping down his face. He knew that Naruto being alone with one of those that supported his ceiling wouldn't end well, and he had to act now in order to stop it. How? Naruto muttered Hao's name with a tone of annoyance, go back over there with the others. Hao gritted his teeth, but nodded his head and made his way back to the others. Zeoticus stood behind Naruto's wheelchair and grabbed the handlebars with a little reluctance. We'll be back soon, so don't worry. He said to his son and his wife with a smile, but they both knew that it was forced. Naruto smiled happily as the two slowly made their way out of the room, not caring for all the pair of eyes that were following them. Shit. Thought Orochimaru as he watched the duo leave the room, why is my life so stressful? Outside the room, Zeoticus was wheeling Naruto down the empty hallway in silence. Naruto still had on the same smile as usual, holding his pickle jar close to his stomach. Zeoticus' fear of his current predicament was steadily increasing by the moment. He basically had a major part in Naruto's ceiling, but Naruto wasn't reacting like how any other devil would if they were to be face to face with him. Just seeing Naruto smiling without any worry was adding on to Zeoticus' fear, and he didn't understand why. You're tense. Naruto's voice brought Zeoticus out of his inner musings. Why are you so tense? I haven't even done anything to you yet. So, you do plan on killing me? Said Zeoticus with a small glare, but his heart rate continued to increase. No. Why would I do that? Laughed out Naruto, I don't care if you live or die. Actually, I'm going to need you alive right now, because you being dead won't help me out at all right now. What do you mean? Asked Zeoticus. Well, if you die, then Rias would have to take up the role as head of Gremory, and I can't have that. She's too young. Explained Naruto. So, I'm just a placeholder to you. Zeoticus almost laughed at that assumption. I'm sorry for the things that I've done to you, but you aren't important in the Devil Society. Nobody knows that you're even alive. What makes you say that I'm just a placeholder to you when you're lower than me in social standings? Well, I can't tell you everything right now, but you should know that it's easy to knock someone off their position when push comes to shove. Said Naruto with a smile, you think you have friends that care about you now, but they'll change on you whenever you both come to a disagreement. What are you getting at? Zeoticus said with a dangerous tone, summoning some of his magic, are you threatening me and my political power? No, you threatened yourself when you signed onto the idea of sealing me. You killed yourself. He stated simply, everyone looks at you like a friend now, but what happens when they find out about what you did to me? What you co-signed on? Zeoticus narrowed his eyes at Naruto, so that's you plan? Exposing to everyone to make me look bad, you're a smart person, Naruto Bael. You should know that it will take something bigger than that to tear me down. I am a smart person, and I'm glad you recognize that. Said Naruto with a playful smile, like I said, you're just a placeholder. Someday, let it be a few years from now, or a few centuries, your little girl will replace you one day. Zeoticus stopped in his tracks, halting Naruto as well. The Gremory clan leader stepped in front of Naruto with a hatred-filled glare, if you lay a finger on my daughter, I swear on the original Satan's name, I'll make you wish that the only thing I did to you was put you in a box. Naruto started to laugh hysterically, but Zeoticus stood his ground, his fear of Naruto long gone. You think this is funny? You're talking about my daughter. I don't care what I did to you, you won't hurt her in any type of way. It is funny. Laughed Naruto, you're screaming. You're hollering. You're doing all of this shit, and you're already too late. What? Zeoticus said with confusion. I can just sense the animosity coming from Rias. Said Naruto with a few extra giggles, she knows what you did to me. She knows, and I can tell that you two had a conversation about it just by the vibes I was getting from both of you. I caught her taking a few peeks towards us during class, and whenever you two made eye contact, she'd turn away like you were disgusting to her. Hey. You're saying you'd make me wish a punishment worse than what you put me through, when you're the one that put the nail to the coffin. He. Ha 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 ha. I swear you high-class devils are so gullible. Stop fucking with me. Zeoticus threw his usual posture out the window when he slammed both his hands on Naruto's shoulders. What are you talking about? I didn't even do anything to my daughter. Never. You left her alone in this world. Started Naruto with a creepy grin, you allowed her to live on her own just to please her desire of being free for the minimum amount of time she had before she would be married away to some guy with the power to shoot fire out of his ass. Zeoticus' eyes widened in shock as he started adding the piece together. You let her live by herself, in a world full of bad people that could manipulate her, fucking her mind up, turn her out, whatever. The point is that you made her available. Rias is a smart girl. She knows what to do and what not to do. Zeoticus said with gritted teeth. True, she is, but when you introduce her to a different perspective. Like revealing that her father and mother weren't the nicest of people that she thought they always were. Naruto giggled. First, she meets a group of powerful devils, an unknown group of devils that popped up out of nowhere, and befriends them. They train her. Pawn. She starts to feel comfortable around them. They free her from her marriage contract that her parents made for because they thought they knew what was best for their little girl. He said with a laugh. Watch your mouth. Growled Zeoticus. And guess what happens next? Said Naruto, completely ignoring Zeoticus. She meets the king. She comes to learn more about that person and, in return, learns about her parents in return. How interesting it is how her mindset can change in a few months, and it's not my fault. This is your fault. Naruto poked Zeoticus in his stomach. If you didn't agree to help seal me up, none of this happens. Well, I'd probably still be sealed up, but I wouldn't be targeting you right now if you didn't have anything to do with my sealing, but you did, so here we are. Zeoticus stepped away from Naruto, and put both his hands on the side of his face in stress. I had to do it. If I didn't do it, my marriage, Venelana. Ah. So that was your motive? Said Naruto in surprise. Honestly, I never understood why you agreed to something that didn't have anything to deal with you, but now I understand. You were sucking up to the big bad Bael, so that you could stay married to his sister. He. So, what's the lesson in this, Don't marry a lady that you can't handle? Shut up! Shouted Zeoticus in anger, you don't understand anything. I don't have to fully understand it, and I never will, but I understand the contents of your situation. Would I have done the same thing? No, because I'm smart. I'd probably find another way around that mess you call your marriage. So, all in all, this is your fault ended. Yup. Naruto said with a clap, fuck you. That's all I've got to say. Any questions? What do you plan on doing with my daughter? He asked with a heated glare. Naruto waved off his glare like it was nothing. I don't plan on doing anything bad to her, I just opened her eyes. She'll become the leader of the Gremory clan one day, and she'll use all the ideology I've taught her to run it. My influence will be at the head of the Gremory clan. And this is how you'll get your revenge. By knocking me off my spot? I want my daughter to be my successor. I want her to be a better leader than I am. Why do? If you wanted her to be the next leader of the Gremory clan, why give her off to the Phoenix clan? The grin on Naruto's face was full of mischief as he stared at the shell-shocked Gremory. He. This conversation is over. I want my snacks. Zeoticus gritted his teeth at Naruto, staring at the smiling blonde for a while, before walking behind him and pushing him again. I pray that your plans are shot down to hell. Hey. Laughed Naruto, you just don't understand, little red, that you and your daughter are only a small part of my plans. I'll make sure that you'll have a front row seat to the shit show coming soon to an underworld near you. He. Ha 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 ha. Oh man, I'm so funny. You're insane. That's what you are. Muttered Zeoticus. And that's your fault, not mine. Answered Naruto, his laughing ceasing in an instant. You don't understand how it is to see darkness for centuries, and you never will. I won't put you through something like that because I'm actually a good person. Other than having Rias replace you, I honestly don't have a punishment plan for you, so you get a free pass. All I ask is when I need something from you, just help me out and we'll be good. I'm not helping you with anything. You turned my daughter against me, you. Correction. Interrupted Naruto, you turned your daughter against yourself. However, you want to spin it, he said with annoyance evident in his voice. My daughter isn't the same anymore, and it's your fault. I've made mistakes with my daughter before, the Phoenix situation being one of them, but at least I've recognized them and plan on helping my daughter become the greatest leader of Gremory history. And I hope you do. It'll only help me in the end. Said Naruto with a laugh. The two were now facing the front doors of the Kuo Academy. I hope they have some snacks left. I'm really hungry right now, haven't eaten in a few days. Zeoticus didn't respond to Naruto. He pushed the doors open for the two and continued pushing Naruto outside. There were a few tables outside surrounded by both parents and students enjoying the food. Some classes must have come out here to eat. Naruto summed up as they approached a table. Hello there. Said one of the students serving at the table, what can I get you? Oh. So many snacks. Said Naruto as his eyes danced over all the available snacks. Zeoticus, what are you going to get? Water please. He asked the student nicely, ignoring Naruto altogether. Naruto pouted at him childish but turned back to the table. Can I just get some cookies? I'd like some chocolate chip cookies please. No problem. The girl said happily as she gave Zeoticus a cup of water and Naruto a small plastic plate of cookies. Zeoticus downed the water in one go and held out his cup. Another please. Sure. Said the student, trying to keep up a positive look. Naruto laughed at Zeoticus. Are you okay, Zeoticus? You look a little pale. Shut up. Said Zeoticus as he downed another cup of water and reached out for another one. You've really run my anger up. I haven't felt like that in a long time. You stick with me and you'll continue to be angry because you won't be able to keep up with me. Said Naruto. You're in a wheelchair. I think I can keep up with you. Clapped back Zeoticus. Was that a handicap joke? Because if it was, I do not approve. shouted Naruto, I could kill you now if I wanted to. Be glad that I have some cookies in my hand right now, or else you'd be dead. The girl serving them didn't know how to respond to the devils in front of her. She could only stand awkwardly and hope they weren't actually talking about killing each other. Forget you, muttered Naruto, pushing himself away from Zeoticus. I've had my fun with you today. Maybe some other than I'll enjoy making you feel stupid, he said with a laugh as he wheeled himself down the front yard of Kuo. Naruto was casually munching on his cookies while taking in the scenery of all the parents and students chanting amongst themselves. It seemed like a regular day with people talking without a care in the world. This is nice, he muttered to himself, peaceful. Haven't seen something like this in a long time. Naya, come on, Chiron. Let's go get some cake, said a familiar voice. Naruto turned his head to see Kuroka holding Kaniko's hand while walking to a table with snacks. Well, Kuroka was actually pulling Kaniko along with her. Kaniko looked quite uncomfortable around her older sister, but didn't voice her opinions. My protege? Naruto said. Kuroka's ears twitched at hearing a very familiar voice and her whole body froze, confusing Kaniko. Slowly, Kuroka turned her head to the direction where she heard that voice, and sure enough, Naruto was looking at her with tilted head. Oh shit. Naya. Hey, it is my protege, Naruto said as he rolled up to the two Nekisho. Oh. You're here with the little one as well. Hello there, Kaniko. How are you? Fine, Kaniko said quietly, ripping her hand out of Kuroka's loosened grasp. You? Oh, I'm fine. Still in this wheelchair as you can see, said Naruto with a smile. His attention turned from Kaniko to Kuroka. What are you doing out here? How said that you went to go handle some business somewhere. Why didn't he tell me you were here with your sister? Naruto's face scrunched up as he went to thinking, was he lying to me? No. Kuroka waved her hands frantically. How wasn't lying? I didn't tell everyone where I went. I just wanted some privacy, Naya. How and everyone else weren't lying? We're all good, Naya yay. She laughed awkwardly. Oh, that's good then, said Naruto with a smile, because you know how much I hate liars. Nyaya, yup. Kuroka scratched the back of her head awkwardly, feeling guilty at lying to Naruto. However, she swiftly changed the course of conversation. What are you doing here, Naruto? You're supposed to be in bed. I woke up this morning and felt like getting out and about. I've been in bed for a few days, and I was sick of it. I'm glad I did get out because I met someone who entertained me for a while, he said. Who, Naya? Asked Kuroka. Zeoticus Gremory, Ria's father, and one of the three responsible for my sealing, he answered with a smile. Kuroka's curious face quickly switched to one filled with hostility as she hissed quietly. Her eyes scanned through the crowd until they landed on a male redhead not too far from them. That's him, isn't it? She said with venom. It is, but don't worry, my protege. We've already had our conversation just a few minutes ago. Everything's fine, he said with a wink. Are you okay, Naya? She asked. I know that. Chiron, maybe you should get yourself some cake. Kuroka looked down at her sister with a small smile. I'll join you soon. Kaniko understood that she wanted some time alone with Naruto and silently nodded before heading off to one of the tables herself. Kuroka turned back to her master with a sad frown. Naruto, I know you hold a lot of anger inside of you, anger that you try to hide from everyone else. I don't want you to hold all of that in until you exploded. You shouldn't be around people like him. Kuroka finished with a snarl while referring to Zeoticus. Come on, my protege. You know me. It's all smiles and candy when it comes to Naruto Bael. No hostility at all, he said with a large smile, showing off his pearly whites. You're lying, Naruto. You've always told me that you hate liars, especially those that lie to themselves. Naruto's smile actually faltered at Kuroka's words. I'm worried for you, Naya. Talk to me. I'm fine. Why doesn't everyone understand that? Asked Naruto, his smile slowly vanishing. There isn't anything wrong with me. I'm not angry at anyone. So you don't hate the people that sealed you? How do you really feel about Zeoticus, about her? Kuroka finished with a whisper, knowing the consequences when referring to Naruto's past lover. Naruto quieted down as his face scrunched up with a small glare. He turned away from Kuroka, not wanting to see her golden orbs filled with worry. I don't want to talk about this right now. He mumbled. Kuroka frowned at Naruto's troubled face, but she didn't push him any further. All right. We can talk about it whenever you're ready, Naya. Just know that I'm here for you. I know. Thanks for that. He said with a small smile. I'm really grateful that you accepted the position of my queen 3 years ago. Honestly, I should have accepted it longer ago. She said with a giggle as she began to push Naruto to the table where Kaneko was munching on some cookies. I was stupid back then. You still have a few screws loose if you ask me. Said Naruto with a laugh. Shut up! Shouted Kuroka, slapping him on top of his head, but she couldn't help but join in on his laughter. Kaneko watched as the two laughed happily between themselves, because she couldn't relate to their happiness. The image she previously had of Kuroka being an evil, murderous, senjutsu-crazed teenager was totally destroyed over the weeks of her observing Kuroka from afar. I still haven't eaten my pickles yet. Muttered Naruto after he got done laughing with his queen. I still don't even know how they taste. We can eat them when we get home, Naya. Said Kuroka, grabbing a plastic plate with cake on it and handing it to Naruto before getting a plate herself. Honestly, they're not even that good, too sour for me. Yuck. It's because you have a poor taste in things. Naruto said with a smile. Pickles are probably the best food in the world. Oh, I want one right now. You're such a child, Naruto-sama. Said the surprised guest Anna, who walked up behind the two and grabbed a plate for herself. I don't understand you at all. Hey, Anna. How's your day been? Asked Naruto with curiosity, as if he hadn't seen Anna all day. Good. Said Anna while rolling her eyes. Orochimaru's class dismissed a few minutes ago, and the next one is starting soon. The others will be out here soon. That's nice. I think I'll sit in for Orochimaru's last class before deciding on what to do next. He said after some thought. All right. I'll call the others and tell them that we'll meet back up in Orochimaru's classroom. Said Anna while pulling out her phone. Naruto-sama. Naruto turned around to see Rias, Akino, Sona, and Tsubaki walking up to the blonde Bael. We weren't expecting you to be here today. I thought you were still healing. I was, but I got tired of being tired and hopped out of the bed. He said with his usual laugh. It's good to see you all though. It's good to see you out of your bed, Naruto-sama. Said Akino. Yes, while it is good to see you out of the house, is it safe for you to do so, Naruto-sama? Asked Tsubaki. Oh yeah. I'm as strong as an ox right now. Said Naruto. He tried to prove his strength by trying to push himself out of his wheelchair, but tired himself out after a few seconds. Phew. I need to get back in the gym. At least his humor hasn't left. Said Sona with a smile. It's good to see you again, Naruto-sama. Ah. You girls are making me blush. Said Naruto, rubbing the back of his head with a cheeky grin. I'm not that important. The group continued their conversation, but was interrupted when Zeoticus approached them. Excuse me for interrupting your conversation. I just wanted to pull Rias aside for a split moment. Sure thing. Said Naruto with a grin. Zeoticus ignored Naruto fully and walked a small distance away from the group with Rias. What is it, father? She asked while crossing her arms over her ample breast. Listen, I'm about to leave. Something's popped up that I need to take care of. He said, I'm sorry that I couldn't stay for the rest of the day. Sure, I understand. Rias said with a nod. Zeoticus, internally, was saddened that he didn't get a major reaction out of her since he was leaving early, but he knew that Rias had a lot on her mind when it came to him. I'll be sure to talk to you soon. He said with a small smile, I love you. Love you too. She answered back, but she didn't have much emotion in her words. And I know you don't want to hear this, but watch your back around him. He said, causing Rias to frown. He's planning something, Rias. I know that I'm the wrong person to hear this from, but it's time for you to go. Now. She said sternly, not leaving any room for argument. However, Zeoticus persisted, Rias, please listen to me when I tell you that man is bad news. He's using you. He doesn't care about you or any of your peerage members. Just please listen to me. I've already told you that I don't care if he's using me or not, he's helping me realize how shady our society really is. He's taught me a lot during these past few months I've known him, and his peerage members. If you have negative feeling for him, just remember that none of this would have ever happened if you didn't sign off on the decision to seal him. She said calmly, now leave. Zeoticus stared at his daughter with sad eyes. I'm sorry that I've made you feel this way. Just know that I love you, and that I'm proud of you no matter what you do. Thank you. She replied plainly. Zeoticus sighed for what seemed like the 100th time that day. Goodbye, my daughter. He waved at her before headed back to his car that he parked outside of school grounds. Rias contemplated her conversation with her father for a while before returning to the group. My father had to leave early. Sorry about that. No worries. Said Sona, so you plan on going back to Orochimaru's class again, Naruto-sama? That's the plan. After that, I'll just find something to do. He replied. Would you like me to give you a tour of the school? I'm sure that would be a good way to kill some time. She asked. That sounds great. My protege, would you like to come? Naruto asked Kuroka. I'll come, but for now I'll be with Chiron during her last class before I meet up with you all. Answered Kuroka while straightening her skirt. Is that okay, Naya? Sure thing. Maybe then we can eat my pickles together. He said with a grin, all right, back to Orochimaru's class. I'm sure that Sona and Tsubaki can escort you there. Said Rias, I have some work to do before meeting back with you all later. Understood, I'll see you all later. Said Sona, leaving with Anna and Naruto. Rias and Akino headed to the old school building and Kaneko and Kuroka joined back up with Kaneko's class. Sona dropped Naruto off before headed back to her office with Tsubaki. Anna wheeled Naruto into the classroom and joined back with the rest of Naruto's peerage members, who all looked relieved to see him okay. If I was a Christian, I'd be thanking God right now. Kisame said before getting a headache from mentioning God, fucking bastard. Are you alright, Naruto-sama? Asked Lee. I'm fine. Said Naruto with a wave, noticing that Orochimaru was teaching another class. Just went and had a nice conversation with Mr. Zeoticus, then I got cookies. I remember that part specifically. Well. Lee looked back at his fellow peerage members with unease before continuing, he didn't do anything to you, right? Oh no. Nothing of the sort. He doesn't have the balls to do so. Naruto said with a chuckle, I handle it, guys. I'm fine. I swear you are one of the scariest being in the world because I don't know when you're serious and when you're just playing. Muttered Kisame. At least nothing crazy popped off. Said Yo, sitting back down in his chair, I want some cookies now that Naruto-sama had some. The group sat in silence as they watched Orochimaru teach his last class for the day. When he finished, he couldn't meet up with the others because he had to entertain parents who had questions for him. It took a few minutes, but after a while, the only people left in the room was Naruto and his peerage members. Today has been stressful. Mumbled Orochimaru as he organized some papers into his briefcase, it's finally over. I assume that you had a good day today, Naruto-sama? Yup. I'm glad that I decided to leave the house today, said Naruto. You mean sneak out the house? Anna stated stoically. Naruto rubbed the back of his head awkwardly because he knew what he did was wrong. Next time, I'll tell you guys when I want to go somewhere. That's a promise too. Believe it. Whatever you say, I just want to go home and jump in the bed. Grumbled Kisame, I haven't felt this stressed out since back in the day when I was still fighting in the war. Those were the good old days, Kisame? Said Naruto. The days where I could beat your ass? Yeah, they were. Kisame said with a shark-like grin. You two were really enemies back during the Civil War? Asked Lee, always interested in one of his peerage members' history lessons. Yup. Back when I was a rising solider in the anti-Satan faction, I was always called whenever Kisame was on the battlegrounds. We always cancelled each other out. Explained Naruto. Best fights of my life. We'd fight for hours, sometime even days, while everyone else fought against each other. It was like we had our own private battle during a whole war. Said Kisame, I wish I could go back to that. Then what made you join Naruto-sama, Mr. Kisame? Asked Lee. 'Cause I felt like it. That's it. Said Kisame with a huff. Orochimaru, hurry your ass up. This kid is asking too many questions. I wouldn't be surprised if the dumbass joined Naruto-sama, because he was lonely. Anna said with a small smile, a rarity coming from her. You know what, I can see that happening. It was Hao's turn to grin at the shark man. You're just a softie. You talk about murder all the time, but even you need someone to depend on. I swear to everything I love, which is a very short list. If you keep on talking about this, I'm slicing your legs off while you sleep. Kisame erupted with a fit of rage. Naruto was laughing at his arguing peerage members. He. You guys are so funny. He said with a giggle. No, Kisame didn't join me because he was lonely. He just wanted a change. Stop fucking talking, you blonde idiot. Kisame shouted. Hey, my hands are up. Laughed Naruto, holding both of his hands up in surrender. I need a vacation from you all. A long vacation. Said Orochimaru as walked up to the group. What do you plan on doing now? Sona should be here any moment now to give me a tour of the school. I guess she's running a little, but she'll be here soon. Naruto said. I've always wanted to tour Koa Academy. Shouted Lee, I feel like we're here so much, but we've never toured around the actual school. That is true. Said Yo while rubbing his chin, hopefully we can run into one of those tables with the cookies too. I also saw my protege here as well with her little sister. Said Naruto. Everyone except for Anna tensed up because they thought that Naruto would figure out that they lied to him earlier. They seemed happy. I'm happy for her. And so are we. Said Yo with a sigh of relief, feeling like they just dodged another bullet. It's been quieter while she's been gone, and since she wasn't at the house this morning hogging one of the couches, I got to sprawl out one of them myself while watching TV with everyone else. The group's attention was changed when they heard someone knocking on the door. Sona entered the classroom and bowed, sorry for being tardy. I heard that there was a commotion going on at the gym, and I had to send someone over to handle it. No problems, Sona. Are you ready to give the tour? He asked the younger devil. Of course. She stated while walking to the group. Can I push you while touring? It'll make things easier for me. Sure thing. Said Naruto. Sona nodded and got behind Naruto. She pushed him outside the room with everyone else following behind the duo. Have you enjoyed your day so far? I have. Koa is such a nice place with a lot of nice people. I'm glad that I finally got out of the bed and came here. I just wish my peerage members would stop being so uptight about it. He said while looking at his peerage members. We're just looking out for your ungrateful ass," said Kisame while rolling his eyes. Naruto smiled, "And I thank you all for your service. You have one of the best peerages I've ever seen, Naruto-sama," said Sona as she took a turn down another hallway. "I know. That's why I handpicked them. I love these guys and girls," said Naruto, "best group of people in the world." "Oh Naruto-sama," cried out Naruto with a river of tears pouring out of his eyes, "such words. I am not worthy enough to hear them. I sometimes wonder why you reincarnated this fool, Naruto-sama," said Orochimaru, but he couldn't help but smile at his master's words. "Lee's a nice person. I don't see why I wouldn't reincarnate him into my peerage," he said as Sona opened the doors to what seemed like a cafeteria. "Oh, this is nice. This is our cafeteria, as you can see. While I feel like the food here cost more than what it's worth, it's pretty good. I'm sure you'd enjoy it," said Sona. Yo's eyes were looking around the cafeteria until he found a specific table that had a few servers, and they were serving exactly what he was looking for. "Cookies," he said robotically as he made his way over to the table. "I'll catch up with you all later. I'm going to go with him to make sure he doesn't do anything too stupid," said Anna. "I'm sure that you all can watch Naruto-sama while I'm gone. Like you all did when he was at the house. I'm sure I could do a better job," said Orochimaru with a small glare. He was still angry at the fact that they left Naruto alone this morning. "It's in the past. Get over it," she replied blankly as she followed her fiancé's that was under a cookie-induced trance. "I'll meet up with you all later. I can take you to the pool area next, Naruto-sama. After that, we can visit some classrooms, the art room, and then finish with the gym. Are you alright with that?" Sona asked respectfully. Yup. Let's get to it." Same time outside of gym. "So, this is the gym, Naya?" Kuroka asked her little sister as they standing outside the gym doors. "Yes." Kaneko answered silently. Throughout the day, Kaneko was getting used to having her sister around, but she was still wary of her. While she hasn't shown any of her past homicidal tendencies she had in the past, Kaneko was still on guard in case anything went left. Kuroka frowned as she looked down at her tense little sister. "You still don't trust me, Naya? You should know by now that I'm not going to do anything naughty." "I don't know that. You've been confusing me all day, and I'm not so sure if you're just acting like you're in control, or you actually are in control of your powers," said Kaneko. "Chiron, I've already explained to you today that I've always been in control," said Kuroka. "I killed my old king because he was going to force you into his peerage and hurt you. I wasn't going to have that happen anytime soon, so I killed him. I still don't understand why you didn't take me with you. Why did you leave me?" Kaneko said with a little emotion showing. "I couldn't take care of you, Naya," Kuroka stated. "I knew that I couldn't have you running around with me all over the world. You needed a place to grow, and I couldn't provide that at the moment. I dropped you off at the Gremory estate, because I knew that behind their kind smiles that they're just regular, power-hungry devils. They wouldn't turn away a Nekisha for anything." Kaneko didn't say anything in return to her sister's revelation. She was too busy trying to figure out all the confusion in her head. She always had this image of Kuroka being a power-hungry, maniac killer, but now she could only see Kuroka the Nekisha that left her so long ago. "I know it might be a little confusing for you," Kuroka said as she bent down to her sister's height, "but I'm not what they told you that I was. I never was. I just had to leave for a while for your best interest. You have a nice little group that you've grown up with, and I have Naruto. Everything is turning out for the better. Wouldn't you say the same, Naya? What does he mean to you?" Kaneko asked her sister with interest, surprising the older Nekisho. "What has that man done for you?" "You mean Naruto?" asked Kuroka. She received a small nod of confirmation from Kaneko. Naruto is a very special person. It's a long story, and you should ask Rias to understand more about him. We don't have much time with each other, and I don't want to spend it talking about someone else. Just know that he's a good man, no matter if he does seem a little crazy, and if it wasn't for him, I would have been dead a long time ago. He seems nice, just a little weird," stated Kaneko with a mutter, causing Kuroka to giggle. "He is a little weird, but that's what makes him unique. It's one of his qualities that made me grow to love him," Kuroka confessed. "You love him?" Kaneko asked curiosity. "I do, Naya," she said with a small smile. "Once you get to know him, you'll understand why I'm attracted to him, but he's mine and I'm not sharing. Not even with you, Naya." "Okay," said Kaneko with a sweat drop. "All right, enough of this lovey-dovey stuff. I want to see the gym, Naya," said Kuroka loudly. Kaneko shook her head at her sister before pushing the doors open to the gym. The two entered the gym and were met with the sight of a crowd of boys surrounding what looked like a little girl, confusing them both. "What is going on in here?" Kuroka said out loud. The only response she got was shrug from her sister because even she didn't know what was happening. "Please turn this way," shouted a guy with a flashing camera. "No, over here. You so amazing. Another picture. Another. Don't worry everyone," shouted the girl with a magical girl costume on. "Miracle Leviathan is here to save the day. Save my day, Leviathan. I need your blessings," shouted a taller boy with hearts in his eyes. "Here you go," said the girl, flashing her wand in his direction. A small stream of glitter came from it and hit the boy right in his face. I've been blessed," he muttered before falling out in shock. "Me next. Please." Seeing this, all the boys went in an uproar as they wanted to be blessed by their savior, Leviathan. Kuroka and Kaneko's sweat dropped at the scene as disbelief. While they couldn't get a clear view of whom the boys were surrounding, it was unbelievable that they were acting like this only for one girl that claimed to have magical powers. However, their attention turned from the mad group of boys to Sanji, who just entered the gym from the side door and was walking up to the crowd. "All right. This is it for now, everyone. You have to leave by orders from the student council president. The gym is closed for the day." Using his impressive crowd control abilities, Sanji was able to clear the guys out of the gym. While they did shot curses at Sanji, the crowd slowly made their way out while taking their final pictures of the costume girl. "See you all later. Remember, Leviathan loves you," said the small, black-haired girl with bust that didn't fit her body. "Honestly, Leviathan-sama, you shouldn't be doing such things. You're just causing trouble for you sister," said Sanji with a light face plant. "Leviathan-sama?" Kuroka ears perked up when she heard Sanji. Who is he talking? I need to go see my Soten anyway. Sarah Fall shouted with enthusiasm. Why didn't she tell me it was class observation day? I want to see my sister. Kaneko focused shifted from the shouting Sarah Fall to her quiet sister. Her hair was covering her face, so she couldn't read her facial expression. However, she could feel Kuroka's magic start to rise from within her. Kuroka? I'm going to have to cut our day together short, Chiron. Kuroka said with a tense tone, far different from her usual voice. I need to handle some business right now. Are you sure? While Kaneko was relieved that she could get away from her clingy sister, she had been trying to run away from her all day, but now that she was acting like this, Kaneko wasn't so sure anymore if leaving was the right choice. Go ahead, Chiron. I'll see you soon. Kuroka gave her shorter sister a small smile, but Kaneko she was faking it based off her clenched fist. But not wanting to push her any further, Kaneko nodded and made her way out of the gym. Once Kaneko closed the gym door behind her, Kuroka's face was flooded with an anger. She turned to Seraphal who was talking to Sanji about something. Her golden orbs locked onto Seraphal as she slowly made her way to the two devils. Seraphol raised an eyebrow when she noticed Kuroka approaching her. Her instincts kicked in as she felt that Kuroka was dangerous with how she was looking at her, but she continued up her magical girl act. Sanji-chan, who's this? Sanji was going to answer, but Kuroka cut him off. Sanji, leave now. What? He said with confusion and a little anger of his own. He didn't like taking orders from someone he hardly knew. I need to escort Seraphol-sama to her sister right now. Sanji. Kuroka side-eyed the pawn with a growl. Leave. A shudder went throughout Sanji as he gazed at Kuroka's eyes. Everything around him was black and the only thing he could see was her golden eyes shooting daggers at him. His breath hitched and he clenched up when what felt like a tongue grazed underneath his right ear, tasting his skin. A dark, deep growl came from behind him, but the massive amount of fear that he was feeling stopped him from making any movements. The long, hot tongue moved from his ear to the back of his neck, before withdrawing from the boy. Sanji's eyes burst open as he gasped. He looked around him to see his was back in the gym, but Kuroka wasn't focused on him. Kuroka and Seraphol were having a stare-off, with Kuroka giving the Leviathan her strongest glare. Seraphol was looking at Kuroka with narrowed eyes, not too sure what was happening but knew that Kuroka was a threat. The young pawn gulped as he finally had the power to move. He took his opportunity and made his way out of the gym as quietly as possible, not wanting to attract any attention to himself as the two she-devils continued their stare down. Kuroka gritted her teeth at the Mao, flashing her small fangs at her. I've been waiting to meet you for a long time. While she was confused, Seraphol didn't show it on her face as she spoke. I don't even know you, but you're letting off a lot of ki at me. Why? Why? She asked with a serious tone, her playful demeanor long gone in favor for a more mature look. Because I want to kill you. Kuroka admitted without hesitation, surprising the Satan. I want to kill you so many times over. You don't know how many times throughout the years I've dreamt of killing you, waking backing up, then going back to sleep just enjoy the same dream. Over and over and over again. Kuroka stepped right into Seraphol's face. You don't deserve to live. Don't tell me what don't deserve. Seraphol snapped, I don't even know you. I suggest that you leave my presence now before I have to resort to my old ways. You must not know enough about me if you're approaching me like this. I know damn well enough about you. Shouted Kuroka while stomping her foot into the ground. Her sandal broke through the gym floor and cracked the concrete beneath it. The legendary Seraphol Leviathan, praised as one of the most beautiful and strongest female devils alive, and a secret coward that can't make decisions for herself. Seraphol pushed Kuroka away from her and summoned a magic seal from her feet. Ice danced on the gym floor in quick speed, encasing Kuroka's feet. However, the Nekishu acted like she didn't even notice it. You are pushing it. Shouted Seraphol, I'm not a coward, and if you continue talking like that, I will apprehend you. You never deserved him. Kuroka growled out. That caught Seraphol's attention as she looked at Kuroka with confusion. Who are you talking about? You know who the fuck I'm talking about. She yelled, the only person that took the time out of their life to get to know your ungrateful ass. The person who gave their heart to you, and you stomped into the ground like it was nothing. The man that you loved but try to forget about every day. I never loved anybody. What the hell are you talking about? Seraphol shouted in anger as she stepped up to Kuroka. I don't know who you are, but you're not going to accuse me of something I've never done. I don't even know who the hell you are. Kuroka's facial expression was one of disgust as she stared Seraphol in the eyes since they were both the same height. You really tried to forget, huh? Is that how you made it this far without killing yourself in guilt? If you don't tell me what you're talking about, I'm leaving. I don't care what type of pent-up anger you have for me, but it's over something that never existed. Growled Seraphol as she poked Kuroka in her chest. Kuroka smirked as she muttered, Naruto Bael. Seraphol's mental barriers came crashing down as his eyes widened. Outside the gym. Hold on, let me think. Muttered Naruto as he rubbed his chin in thought, this is. The football field. No, you fucking idiot, it's the gym. Kisame said as he looked down at his shocked king, are you really that stupid? It says gym right there in bag S letters. Naruto-sama isn't stupid. Sona said to the shark man with a glare, he just didn't notice. I really thought this was the football field. This place is so big. Naruto said with disbelief, I'm glad I graduated, or did I? Let's just continue to pointless tour. Said Orochimaru with a roll of his eyes, we need to get him home soon. Of course. Said Sona. She was about to continue pushing Naruto, but he raised his hand out to halt her. Is there something wrong, Naruto-sama? Do you smell that? He said as he took a few whiffs of the air. Sona sniffed the air and was confused as she didn't smell anything. No sir, I don't. I smell beef cooking up. He said as he glanced around the area, somebody is mad nearby. I swear my leader is a fucking idiot. Said Kisame with a face plant. That's Naruto-sama for you. Said Hao with a sweat drop. Can we please just hurry this up? Said an impatient Orochimaru. All right, bossy. Said Naruto with a pout, let's go, Sona. So, this is the gym we're outside of? With Kuroka and Seraphol. Seraphul's eyes dilated as she stepped back from Kuroka. Her body was shaking as images of a blonde Bael flashed throughout her mind uncontrollably. How? How do you know that name? She managed to get out. Why wouldn't I know that name that you've tried to forget? Asked Kuroka with a head tilt. He is king, after all, and the man that saved me. Seraphol head snapped up at Kuroka, he's your king. That means he's alive, right? Please tell me that he's alive. He's alive. Muttered Kuroka with a glare, but when he sees you? He'll kill you. The ice around Kuroka's feet melted, revealing that they were surrounded by a blue flame that died down once all the ice evaporated. Kuroka took her first step toward the shaking Satan with confidence, as she continued, he's not the same man anymore. He's different. Very different. Because of you, he lost his mind inside a fucking box, because he was stuck in there for centuries. Centuries. Kuroka shouted, causing Seraphol to flinch. He was sealed. She mumbled under her breath. Kuroka growled out and grabbed Seraphol by her shirt and pulled her closer. No thanks to you. She yelled, he's gone crazy. Insane. He tried to hide all the hurt and pain inside his heart, but it's there. A massive ocean of anger and hatred and sadness. Everything you could think of, and it's all your fucking fault. She threw Seraphol to the ground and stood over her. He told me everything that you and the rest of your kind did to him. If I was strong enough, I would kill you right here on the spot. But with him, there's no doubt in my mind that we can kill you and your useless existence. His nightmares can cease the moment you die. I didn't want it to be like this. Seraphol cried out. She couldn't control the outpour of tears flowing from her once sparkling eyes. I didn't know. I don't care that you didn't know, growled Kuroka as she grabbed Seraphol by the hair. The Nekishu squatted down and held the Satan up to her eye level. You were the start of this all. You caused all of his suffering. This is all your fault. She yelled, if I were you, I would have. Kuroka stopped herself from saying anything else and looked away from Seraphol with a hiss, damn it. She muttered under her breath. She dropped Seraphol and stood back up. When I'm stronger than you, I will kill you. That's a promise, Naya. The two went quiet for a while. Seraphol was collecting herself, trying to take hold of the big revelation given to her. Kuroka was trying to calm down and not attack Seraphol. She knew that she would lose if she fought her here and now, but the temptation was growing with every second because she knew that Seraphol wasn't mentally ready for a big fight. However, the Nekisha held strong, her thirst for blood being quenched as she watched Seraphol cry her eyes out in glee. After some time, Seraphol stood back up. She rubbed her eyes free from any tears, but they were still red. I don't even know what to say. You can say less, Naya. Your voice is annoying to me. Kuroka said with salt, checking her nails nonchalantly. At least he's alive. Serafal said while taking an exhausting in relief, he's alive. The noise of the gym doors opening and laughing caught both of the girls' attention. It's so big in here. I think I can hear my echo. Yes, Naruto-sama, you can, said Sona with a small smile, finding Naruto's childlike personality funny. Orochimaru eyebrow rose when he noticed that Kuroka was in the middle of the gym. She was standing in front of someone, but Kuroka was in the way so he couldn't get a proper look at her. He did notice the small crater in the ground was near to Kuroka's feet. What's going on in here? The Nekisha frowned at her, King, who was looking at Kuroka with worry. Are you all right, my protege? I thought you were with your sister? Said, Queen, bit her lip, and as she thought about her next decision, I'm sorry. She mumbled as she summoned a magic circle and teleported away from the scene. Naruto scratched his head in confusion. What's wrong with? Holy fuck, said Kisame, taking in the sight of a certain Satan. Serafal and Naruto's eyes met for the first time in centuries. Naruto's right hand that was scratching his head slowly descended down to his lap, and his mouth was slightly ajar as he took in Serafal's form in disbelief. Both of Serafal's hands covered her mouth as another round of tears started to gather in her eyes as she stared at her long-lost past lover. They were both frozen as they stared at each other, not knowing how to react to seeing each other in so long. Sister? Said Sona, not even noticing the growing tension in the room. Sona's eyes lit up as an idea formed in her head. Sister, look who I have with me. It's Naruto-sama, one of your friends from the past. Aren't you glad to see him? Sona wheeled Naruto towards Serafal at a small pace. She raised an eyebrow at how Kisame and Orochimaru as they were signaling her not to move forward, but she kept going anyway. She parked Naruto 3 feet away from Serafal and moved towards her sister, now in between the elder devils. Sister, aren't you happy to see Naruto-sama again? He told me that you two were friends during the war against the old Satan faction. I was thinking that maybe you two could catch up on old times again, HM? She asked. Serafal's focus jumped from her little sister and then back to Naruto in a hurry. Naruto's shock was long gone, being replaced with a neutral look as his eyes met Serafal's again. She flinched at his cold, hardened stare, but couldn't pry her eyes away from him. It really is you. You. She whispered, but just loud enough for everyone to hear. Naruto didn't respond, however, finding comfort in his silence. He moved his left elbow to one of his arm rest and propped his palm underneath his chin. The lack of anger, interest, or any emotion other than boredom made Serafal even more uncomfortable with the situation. Sona's confusion was growing because she didn't understand why Naruto was talking. Naruto-sama, are you okay? Haven't you wanted to meet my sister for some time now? Sona. Serafal shivered at the deep tone in his voice. Me and your sister are going to have a quick chat alone. I'll meet back with you later. Are you sure? Asked Sona with a bit of unease. Just a few seconds ago, Naruto was happy and all smiles, but now he seemed serious. I'm sure. Leave us. He stated that left no room with argument. Why yes sir. She said with a quick bow and headed back towards the doors. She checked over her shoulders to see that two were still staring at each other awkwardly. What's going on between those two? Sona asked Orochimaru once she made it to the group. Orochimaru sighed, you'll find out soon. There's no stopping this now. Let's just leave for now and catch up with them later. I guess. The Citrieris agreed, but with uncertainty as she gave them one last peek before heading out of the gym, leaving Naruto and Serafal alone. Serafal felt like the invisible weight on her shoulders grew even heavier as a small smirk grew on Naruto's face. He started to tap his feet as if if he was waiting for her to start their long-awaited conversation. Where? Sarah Fall clenched her fist as she felt stupid about her question. Your queen told me that you were in a seal all this time. Is that true? He. Naruto giggled, scaring Sarah Fall. Yes, it's true. I've been in a seal all this time. I didn't know. She squeaked out as her tears crawled down her cheeks. I didn't know that he was going to do that, Naruto. I promise you that I didn't know. I thought that he would just keep you away from me or something. You know? I didn't know that he was going to put you in a seal. I didn't hear from you in so long and I thought that you were just far away. Maybe somewhere on countryside somewhere. I wanted to look for you, but I didn't know where to start. I convinced myself that you were okay. I tried to replace you with things or hobbies. Whatever tea that there was to get you off my mind, but it didn't work. It would never work. Please say something. Anything. I want you to tell me that what your queen said wasn't true. Please. She cried out. Naruto's smirk didn't leave his face. What are you wearing? What? She asked while whipping her eyes with her sleeve. I asked, what are you wearing? This? She said as she pulled at her jacket. This is a persona I made, magical girl Levi 10. She said with a small, sad laugh. It helped take my mind off the more than anything else. I actually like it. This isn't the Seraphol I remember though, said Naruto as he pushed himself out of his wheelchair, surprising the Satan. The Seraphol I remember, while she did have that childish side of hers, wasn't running around lying to herself all day. She was strong and not a coward when it came to how she felt. She knew when to handle business, and how to command your units to battle in any situation. Naruto stopped in front of the smaller Seraphol and looked down at her. I don't know who this crying mess is in front of me. I've changed. She mumbled under her breath. She tensed when Naruto's finger cupped her chin and moved her head so that she was back to looking up at him. These clothes need to go, he said as he snapped using his free hand. Suddenly, red light appeared around the edges on all of Seraphol's clothes. Naruto's power of destruction slowly danced all over her clothing, eating away at the material and turning it into nothingness. Seraphol's blue eyes didn't tear away from Naruto's eyes as she felt her clothes slowly dissolve away. Her heart rate quickened when she stared deep into Naruto's eyes, and a small blush dusted over her cheeks. We're close, she thought as she felt his body heat. It's been so long. She didn't even care that all of her clothes were now gone. She stood nude in front of her ex-lover, inside of a trance created by his eyes that mimicked the ocean. Naruto smirked as he glanced down at Seraphol. This is something similar to the Seraphol I once knew, he said with a deep voice that sent shivers down Seraphol's spine. What? What are you going to do? She asked. Naruto's smirk never left as his hand lowered down to Seraphol's chin to her neck. He held it in a loose hold, not even applying any pressure to it. Seeing you has brought up some emotions that I've held dormant. Seraphol gulped. Ditto. He chuckled at her wording. You don't care that I have my hand around your neck? I don't. I trust you. You trust me? Even after all that's happened? He asked. He lifted fingertips off of her skin, but his palm remained. His palm started to slowly move down, now right above her chest. Seraphol's blush started grow. Yes, even after everything that happened. I've missed you so much. Nothing can replace you, Naruto. It felt good for her to say his name like that, without fear that there might be a negative consequence to it. Tell me what you did to try and find me, he said as his palm continued downwards. Seraphol held back a moan as his palm was in between her breast. I tried to find you on the edges of the Bael territory, she gasped out. As his palm continued its journey down her skin, one of his outstretched hands shaved over the top of one of her nipples, and it sent a jolt of electricity throughout her body. I moved to a few other outside territories. No luck. Did you search here in the human realm? He asked as his palm was out of her breast, and now at the top of her toned stomach. No. She managed to get out. I knew that they wouldn't banish you to the human realm. You're too strong to be banished here, because then you were susceptible to taking with other factions. Smart. He said as his hand was now in the middle of her stomach. Seraph's teeth were gritted harshly as she was trying to remain calm, but the stimulation of Naruto's hand was heating her up. Her face was fully flushed and her breathing was ragged. What do you want me to do now, Sarah? Seraph's heart jumped at hearing the nickname he gave her so long ago. His hand started to slowly down now, but it was towards the bottom of her stomach. I want you to come home. His hand stopped moving, which scared her because she thought that she said something wrong. His smirk was gone, but he didn't seem mad. Home. What home? Well, you once told me that wherever I was, that was where home was. She bravely moved her left hand up to his cheek and rubbed his whisker marks. I want you to come back with me. I have a peerage now. They can come with you. You can bring whoever you want, as long as you're with me. She said, I've done so much wrong to you, Naruto. I want to make it right starting now. Come with me. Go with you? His hand started slowly moving down again, dangerously close to her privacy. Are you sure? Why yes. She moaned, not strong enough to hold it back anymore. Come with me, Naruto. I think. His hand stopped, disappointing her immensely. No, keep going. I think. That you're very funny. Seraph opened her eyes, forgetting the bliss she was currently feeling. Naruto's smirk changed from cocky to evil as his hand jumped up from her navel back to her neck. This time, however, he had a grip on it. You think that I'll go back? With you all people. Ha. You are so funny. Naruto? She said with a little fear in her voice. I can't go back with you, Sarah. He said while shaking his head, I'd probably kill you in your sleep. Boo, but I thought that you loved me just like I did, but I guess that was the worst assumption of my life. He stated with a growl, but now. I don't need you. I don't care for you, I can live without you. He. You thought things would go back to how they were. Things can never go back to the way it was. Seraph's eyes were frantically moving, trying to find any deceit or hidden smirk on Naruto's face. She wanted him to say that he was just playing, and that he would go with her. The chances of that dream, however, were dropping by the second. Please, Naruto. I know that I don't deserve you, but I want to make things right. You want to make things right? Then stay out of my way. I'm doing something right now, and I don't need you or emotions to fuck with my plans. He said as he bent down to Seraph's height, you'll see more of me, but we will be enemies. Nothing more. The emotions that came up earlier? They're the emotions that I've held dormant for centuries. My hatred I have for you and the Citri, I'm trying my best not to do something to you now. He said with a laugh before closing in and kissing her on the cheek, shocking her more than anything else that he said, for old time's sake. Hope you enjoyed. He then pushed Seraph off of him. No, go put some clothes on. I'm cold as hell in this gym and you're naked. You'll catch a cold if you stay like that. Ha. Naruto turned away from the shock-ridden Seraph and hopped back into his wheelchair and placed his pickle jar back into his lap. Oh, and one more thing. He said as he turned back to Seraph when Sona asked what happened here, you are to tell her everything past and present. Naruto summoned a magic seal beneath him and was about to teleport himself, but Seraph jumped behind him and wrapped her arms around his neck, resting her head on his shoulder. Naruto, please don't go. I don't want it to be like this. I don't want you to hate me, even though I deserve it, but I know that you also think about the past too. If you're anything like I am, then I know it haunts you as well. Naruto's evil smirk slowly faded into a neutral look as he closed his eyes with a sigh. things won't be the same. They will never be the same. I know, Sarah Fall's words were muffled because she was speaking into his shoulder. I have a lot to work on, and it seems like you have a lot of healing to go through. I want to be there. Just let me help you, please. I don't need your damn help, shouted Naruto as he tried to pull Sarah Fall's arms off of her, but she tightened her grip around him and held him close. Get off of me. I don't want you near me. Sarah Fall, get off of me now. No. You need this, just like I do, she whispered. Her words ceased his struggling as he looked at her from the corner of his eye. Sarah Fall tilted her head upwards and stared back at his ocean blue eyes. You feel alone, just like me. He gritted his teeth and turned away with a grunt. He snapped his fingers and instantly 7 magic circles appeared around them. All of Naruto's peerage members appeared with serious looks on their faces, except for Yo as he was turned in the wrong direction while stuffing his face with cookies. How'd I get here? Get her off of me, Naruto demanded. Get her off of me now. Kisame, not even wondering why Sarah Fall was naked, grabbed Samehate off of his back and pointed towards Sarah Fall. Don't have to tell me twice, he shouted and blasted towards the girl. Sarah Fall, using her quick agility, jumped back from the harm Kisame's sword, but was now face to face with Lee. He tried to catch her with a quick jab and kick combination, but she dodged both while she summoned her wings, flying up in the air. Naruto, I don't want it to be like this, Sarah Fall said as she used one of her arms to cover her breast. She crossed her legs together to hide her privacy from the newcomers. Stay away from him, Kuroka growled out as she held out her outstretched arm up towards Sarah Fall. Blue flames appeared on each of fingertips to enhance her demand. Take me home, said Naruto, but his facial expression was unreadable because his hair was overshadowing his eyes. Let's go, everyone, said Orochimaru as he summoned a magic circle big enough to teleport. Sarah Fall looked on in desperation, not wanting her past lover to leave. Naruto, don't go. We can fix this. I promise you on my title of Leviathan. Just please don't go. If I ever see you around him again, I will not hold back. Kuroka growled out with as much hatred as she could muster. She stepped into the magic circle, and they all slowly disappeared from sight, leaving a naked, crying Leviathan all by herself. Time skip 3 hours later. Naruto's peerage house. Naruto was sitting in the living room, facing a blank television. His face was scrunched up in an angry scowl, and his fists were clenched tight against the arm rest on his wheelchair. He was deathly quiet, ignoring everything else in favor of continuing his long-last glare at the blank television. His pickle jar was still seated in his lap, but it seemed like he wouldn't be opening that anytime soon. Kuroka sighed as she looked at the scene. Before entering the kitchen where everyone else was at, he's been like that for 3 hours. To be honest with you, I expected worse, said Orochimaru, sipping on some freshly made coffee. I thought that we were going to have to repair the whole entire school if those two were to meet, but he actually handled himself well. Maybe this is a good sign of recovery. I think he's just holding it all in, suggested Anna as she ate from a bagel. He's the type to hide all of his feelings just so his friends won't be worried for him. While that is a selfless act, it can also be very poisonous for a person to hold in all that hatred and anger. He's going to snap soon. There's no denying that, grumbled Kisame, and we don't know when that can happen. He's shown us time and time again that he just sits in the same fucking position for days without doing anything. I don't see how he does that shit, but I feel like it'll be a long time before we get a response from him. I'm leaving. Naruto's voice made them all jump in shock as their eyes shot to the kitchen door. Naruto, still in his wheelchair, had quietly wheeled himself to announce something to his peerage members. Don't follow me. I don't know how long I'll be gone for. Are you sure, Naruto? Asked Kuroka as she slowly approached Naruto. Maybe you should stay here, Naya? You haven't had a chance to eat your pickles with Orochimaru today anyway. Naruto glanced down at his pickle jar before taking it in between both of his palms. With a burst of his power of destruction, his pickle jar and everything within it was destroyed by his power magic, not leaving any residue of any kind. No more pickle jar. I'm leaving, he stated simply as he teleported away. Well, that went great. Said how after a few seconds of Naruto leaving, now's there's a wild, insane, blonde Bael out on the streets. Should we go follow him? I don't believe that to be wise, Mr. How. Said Lee with sad frown, I think that would do more harm than good going against his orders. I think we should let him be for now. It's all her fault. Everyone's attention turned to Kuroka, whose arms were shaking and fists were clenched. A small stream of tears started to pour down her face, but anger was the only emotion evident on her face. It's all that bitch's fault. Kuo Park. Naruto was sitting alone in the darkened park. There were a few lamps that lit up the pavement and the ground, so he had light, but he didn't care about that. There wasn't anyone else out in the park, with the only noise coming from the central fountain that was nearby and crickets hiding within the grass. Naruto was leaning his head into his palm as he looked down at a particular rock on the ground. It was larger than the rest of the rocks in the park, almost replicating a small boulder. However, what was different about this rock was that the top part of it was smooth and flat. Engraved into the rock was a name that he hadn't even thought twice about in a long time. Amano Yuma. The site where Naruto was sitting was the same area where Issei was killed. It was also the same place where Lee had his first big battle against Rias, Kiba, and Kaneko. This rock-turned tombstone was the one Lee made for Issei's first girlfriend in honor of her. That wasn't even that long ago. He mumbled to himself as he stared at the name. The anger that he once displayed on his face was gone. He seemed calm now as he took in the sight of the tombstone. While you don't have any significance in my heart, I don't even know why I'm here with you right now. Naruto glanced at some of the dead flowers that were littered around her tombstone. Issei was his first thought. The boy must have visited this spot frequently in the past, but hasn't been here in a while since there weren't any fresh flowers on her grave. The young Bael sighed as he lifted his head up. When are you going to reveal yourself to me? It was quiet for a while, but the sound of someone landing a few feet behind Naruto made him turn his head to see who it was. It was a teenage boy with a distinct silver hair. He was wearing a green V-neck shirt underneath an open, high-collared leather black jacket. He followed that with burgundy-colored jeans and black shoes. The boy stood up from his crouched position on the ground and looked towards Naruto with glee. I've been waiting for this. Waiting for what? Naruto looked away from the silver-haired boy with disinterest. I want to fight you. He answered, I saw you enter Kuo Academy today, surrounded by all of those powerful devils. You're different. I can feel it. You're strong, unlike that pathetic Red Dragon Emperor. Issei's still learning, but he's stronger than you believe. Naruto replied. The silver-haired boy shook his head, displeased with Naruto's reply. No matter. I don't care for him right now. All I care about is fighting you. Why? Asked Naruto, slightly glancing back at the boy. The teenager grew a smirk as his eyes met Naruto's. Because you have that look. You're different, very different. I know that the wheelchair has to be some type of facade. This will be a battle that I can enjoy. And what if I don't want to fight? Then you'd be lying to yourself. I can almost see the hatred rolling off your back, right? You're holding in a lot of anger, aren't you? Don't you think you deserve something to let loose on? The boy said with outstretched arms, My name is Vala Lucifer, and I challenge you. 8 bat-like wings came out of Vala's back. He stretched them out to present their glory to his soon-to-be opponent. Naruto stared back at Vala with disinterest at first. However, as he took a look at the moon in the sky, an image of a smiling Seraphol angered him. His fist clenched, and he gritted his teeth. He sharply stood up from his wheelchair, making Vala smile at his success. You know what? I need to kill something right now. So, you want this to be deathmatch? Vala said with his ever-growing smirk, I couldn't ask for more. I just don't care anymore. Said Naruto as he stretched out his limbs, I've been through a lot recently, and I need a release. I don't care who you're allied with, the consequences that could come from killing you. I just want to fight and kill something. I'm sorry that you'll be the target of my anger tonight, but this is what you want, right? Damn right. Let's do this. Said Vala, summoning up his power. Naruto took a deep breath as he focused on his magic. I need this. He mumbled to himself, just let loose this one time. This one time. Naruto opened his eyes while he reached into his pocket. His eyes gleamed red for a second before returning back to his natural blue. Out of his pocket, he pulled out his spell tags with a large smirk growing on his face. You can have first move if you want. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.